Dragon Age Dreadwolf is to some extent on the way. I mean, it could be coming out in a year or 2 years or however long, but to one level, it's happening, and like a lot of other people, I'm really excited about it. But it kind of sent me into thinking about the old Dragon Age games, and there's one kind of group that I haven't been able to stop thinking about, and that would be the Ghasts. Does anyone remember the Ghasts in Dragon Age? I feel like they are a criminally underrated species or creature in the game. I hesitate to say creature because they have some territorial instincts, and those, I think, to a lot of people, instantly make them seem like wild creatures or something. But they have mages, and I don't know the pronunciation of it, but it's basically Velgus or Velgast, something in that vein. I don't exactly know how to say it though. But they have mages, which means they have the capacity to dream, and they might not actually be unintelligent or non sentient. So there's just this creature in Dragon Age that we treat like nothing, completely just run past them like they don't even exist. But they like legitimately might be basically or near the human level intelligence, just without our language or without our technology. And yes, they have those territorial instincts, but if they are kind of a sentient species that is below the average intelligence of humans, dwarves, elves, and Kunari, then it kind of makes sense that they might be afraid of all of us. I mean, there's not a lot of lore to them, so there's not much more for me to say, but I think that this is a really interesting piece of Dragon Age lore that is completely overlooked, especially when we're talking about potential companions. And sure, one of these guys might not make the ideal companion for a Bioware game, since it is so character driven and character focused, but some sort of a character who is recurring throughout the game in some way, I think would be potentially fitting. I don't know if it's possible for them to speak our language, like if they literally have the vocal cord structure, or if we find another way to communicate, especially if it's a mage, we could use magic in some way. But it feels so slept on to me, and there's a creature in one of the concept arts, and concept art can change. It means nothing, really. I mean, it gives the mood and the feeling, but it's really not canon, especially not until the game comes out and we can see like where it was all leading. But for what it's worth, there seems to be a creature in the concept art that looks to me like a Ghast, and he's kind of just trapped up in a cage. So I'm wondering if Teventer, I mean, they're rooted in like slavery and some pretty shady practices anyway. So if they have Ghasts that are being kept on display like animals, I'm really hopeful for a quest where we actually get to investigate them and potentially see that they have a certain level of intelligence, and maybe we can choose to fight for them and try to free them. Maybe it's just a gimmick, or maybe they just wanted a cool looking creature, so they used a Ghast because they have a nice design or something, or a design that fit what they wanted, the tone they wanted. But I'm hoping it means something more. I really am, because, like I said, I think that it's just really interesting. And if we had a companion, that'd be great. But if we had some sort of a recurring character with like maybe their own quest line, then people would see that character. They would probably be mostly comic relief or something, but it would give people a Ghast character that they love, which would give all of us the desire to see more of their lore, and then we'd get to flesh that out. I kind of wonder if I'm alone in that. Like, I looked online and people don't really talk about the Ghasts. I've seen a couple of posts on like, I've seen like a couple posts on random boards when I searched for a long time, but I've never seen even like a major thread on them or anything. Like, people don't really care, which might be why it never happened. Like, maybe there was a plan for them, but nobody picked up on it or nobody cared about it, so BioWare was like, don't put the assets in that. Or maybe it was never supposed to be a thing. I don't know, obviously. It's something that to me is really exciting, though, and I want to see some game use this. I mean, Mass Effect had the Vorcha, who were sentient, and we still didn't really treat them like they were. We didn't get a companion or a major character or even a real quest line with the Vorcha because they were kind of comic relief or gag characters, We did get kind of a lot of lore on them though, but it's very much overlooked. And I think that it's sort of a thing with RPGs. They give us this species that is sentient, or maybe close to sentient in this case with the Ghasts, but they don't really delve into it because it's just there to look cool or be kind of interesting, but you're not supposed to like get attached. But I really want them to break that mold. I want them to give us a companion or a character or a quest line or something with that. And if Mass Effect's not going to do it with the Vortia, then the Ghasts are my new thing. And when Mass Effect 5 is starting to get pushed up in the hype cycle, I will say the exact same thing about the Vortia versus the Ghasts. This is going to keep going. This is going to happen every time they switch games until eventually we get one. But yeah, those are some quick thoughts on that. I mean, Dragon Age has some other factions and other interesting either groups or maybe species like the Kossith or the Kunari, who aren't actually part of the Kun, which was not their original thing. Like they weren't always the religious bunch. And then there are some other ones that I don't know if people would consider it spoilers, so I'm not going to get into it. But there are other things that we don't actually know if it's a faction who lives across the sea or its own race of people who live across the sea. And those are from the books, so they might be in the game, so that's why I don't want to talk about it too much. But it's like, okay, there might be just another sentient species out there in this RPG world. It makes sense because so far Dragon Age doesn't have an equivalent to any sort of like aquatic life by any name, really. But those water people, those water humans, people love them. They're in many major RPGs. I mean, they're in Dungeons and Dragons, which largely inspires RPGs. So I think that we could have another sentient race that represents them. Maybe playable, maybe not, I don't know. But then we also have other things like the ancient elves. There's very few of them, but since we saw some, maybe they'll be back somehow, and they have a completely different culture than elves, and even Dalish elves. So I think they'd be a really nice faction to actually get to know. But I'm kind of at this point right now where I'm like, okay, but were they a one game, one mission thing guarding the spring? Or are they going to be a major occurrence in the next game, especially with Solus's war going into full effect? Maybe that's going to matter. The answer to all of this at the end of the day is none of us know yet. But while I am going to, while I am going to give some companion speculation, go back to those old concept arts and talk about who I think they might be and what personalities I want, which isn't so much speculation as much as wish listing. Speculate who they are and what classes they are, but give some wish list as to what personalities I would want tied to that character. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I might cut that out. Like, why plan for videos in a video? The point is, I eventually do want to go back into that original concept art and give kind of a, if this concept art comes true and is accurately representing our party, then this is what I want these characters to act like or play like or whatever. But for this, I just kind of wanted to be open about the factions. I'm really excited about these factions. Excellent. Short one today, but that's all I got for you. So thank you very much and have a great period of time until I next see you.